time. Oh, gee, baby. It's the only time I get to, like, sound like I, like, belong on a football field, which is fabulous to have Joe Theismann here.
It's great to be with you guys. It's so wonderful to be with you.
Have a fan in Donald Trump, and he's watching Outnumbered. How do we know?
Well, he just tweeted out, hashtag Joe Theismann was great as a political analyst on @Fox News. He knows far more than football. Thanks for the nice words, Joe.
Ooh, we got to teach him that hashtag Outnumbered.
Yep.
He didn't hashtag about me? Weird.
He did not.
That's weird.
Donald Trump.
Thanks, Donald.
I'm sorry.
So, but you did talk
What's
about
up with
Donald
that?
Trump with regard to what was happening in breaking news, and so I'm sure he was watching.
Well, basically, what Donald is saying is what everyone is thinking, and no one is willing to say it. He is, when you think about where he is, he's not a part of the establishment, and the Republican Party is scared to death of him. But the one thing he has done, and people have to understand this, he has created such a following that if he does not get the nomination, he is a major threat to the party. And unless he finds somebody, and he said this in the first debate when they asked him, will you run as an independent if you don't get the nomination? He said, if I like the person that gets the nomination, I won't. Mm-hmm. He left that door wide open for the opportunity to be able to do whatever he wants to do. This is scary for everybody because Donald is in control through the numbers. And those numbers, if he said, listen, I think Ted Cruz, I didn't get the nomination, but Ted Cruz is a guy that I think can change it and do the things that we need. Boom, it's done.
Agreed. I would say one thing, though. I don't think that he says what everybody is thinking. I think that
certainly says what he's thinking.
He says what he's thinking, and people find that refreshing because at least they feel like if he'll say that's so outlandish, then we at least know where he's coming from. But I do think sometimes he makes the mistake too of thinking that he's saying what everybody else is thinking.
What he says, he'll say something, and then he'll say he won't apologize, but he'll say something about Carly Fiorina, and then he'll say, "But she's a nice lady, nice woman."
Speaking out of both sides.
Yeah, he does. It's like I said it, but I'm not going to apologize for it. But I'm trying to clean it up a little.
He dominates a news cycle because he throws something out there, like the Muslim comment. So it dominates for the next 24 hours. People talk about it. They get outraged. Then 24 hours later, he sits down with Barbara Walters and he says, "Well, it's just temporary." 24 hours later, he says, well, and then he sort of amends it again. It's temporary. We should look at Muslims. Then he compares it to Jimmy Carter. And then the left wing shuts up because they said, oh, wait, that was a liberal president. Maybe we shouldn't. And then it's just, before you know it, it's Monday through Friday. We're talking about Donald Trump. He's walked it back and he said, it's temporary. It's just going to be,
he's smart
Muslims.
And he's bold.
Yeah.
And I saw where Jeb Bush hired a media relations person to try and help with the presentation. When you think, and I go back, when we first did this show and we talked about the elections coming up, and we talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger in California and Jesse Ventura in Minnesota. They're not politicians, right? But they're somebody that people can relate to. Donald has been a master in getting people to relate to him. And that's what they're following. Is he going to be able to do the things he talked about, build a wall?
But that's what wins a president.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't think it matters because they talk about the three parts to a story, right? The beginning, the middle, the end.
Right.
Donald Trump just goes from the beginning to the end. It's like Mexicans are raping our women, and we're going to build a wall. Right. And people just go, okay, there's a solution. And then every other candidate's going, no, we can't.
He makes everybody else defend a position.
But for the record, Jesse Ventura is a real, and I can't say the word on TV.
He
just did.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was going to say something
what she really felt.
But I like my job.
But you know what? He oversimplifies. And I'll tell you what, I've thought since when Obama won on Hope and Change, what was Hope and Change? Nobody knew. It was marketing genius. It was whatever you wanted it to be. And I think Donald Trump knows. He's a smart man. He's a businessman. Same thing. To win a presidency in the United States, sadly, is to be a marketing genius. And that's what Donald Trump is. And that's probably why he'll win. And
he's still going to be faced with dealing with the House and Senate. I mean, whoever gets in the office, whoever president's going to be, whichever individual winds up there, they're still going to have to deal with, I think, the issues of the House and the Senate. And to be able to get things passed that they want to get done. To build a wall, 1,967 miles, give or take a few, which is the southern border of Texas and Mexico. How many lifetimes? And how do you fund it?
So compare this presidential cycle to a football game, to the quarters in a football game. I mean, where are we? I mean, because, for a while it was still early, a lot can change here, but now we're entering into 2016, and January is going to get really interesting.
Right, and of course you've got the debates coming up in Iowa and New Hampshire in the next year. So that'll be very interesting to see how things go in that regard. I think we're nearing the end of the second quarter. Okay. I really do. I think we're sort of in a place right now where we're getting an idea of what the teams are like. They've been feeling one another out. We've tried a few plays. We've tried a little bit of this. Okay.
Is there anybody you'd bench?
I'd bench at least 7 of them.
Ooh.
I would. I mean, if you're getting 1%, and you and I had this conversation, and I agree with you, you can't tell anybody to leave, but if you have no chance and you still have money coming in and you're there, why are you there? I mean, is it just to voice an opinion? Or are you there to try and effect a change, which you really can't because you're not going to be in that position? And, Sandra and I had this conversation. What about you had state polls, national polls? How do you determine who stays and who goes? I think at some point, for the good of the Republican Party and the GOP, that there are 7 people that have to decide that I'm going to throw my support behind particular individuals that believe like I believe and see things the way I see it, and then I'm going to let them do it.
Goes. If you've got the means to continue a run for the president, that's the way our country works.
And listen, like I said, go ahead and do it.
And for a long time,
the
beginning, everyone was saying, at least pundits on the right were saying, this is going to be great for the GOP to have this sort of selection, to have so many, such a deep bench. More choice is good.
When you have a deep bench, it's like a coach saying, well, this quarterback, I have 1 in 1A. If you have 1 in 1A, you have none. It means you don't have anybody good enough to be able to be the starter. So you've got sort of guys that can play, but nobody's really that good. I think in this case, like I said, Donald scares the living daylights out of the establishment. He really does. And but he doesn't.
Why do you think he does?
Because he's not traditional. He
can't be controlled.
He's an outsider. He can't be controlled
with money or otherwise.
You can't dictate to him anything that he doesn't want to do. He says everything and anything he wants to say. I mean, I totally disagree with him when he basically attacked John McCain, a prisoner of war, and he said some of the things that he said. I mean, but that'll all be forgotten.
And I think that's also appealing to people. Like when you talk about the fact that nobody can control him, that's what it used to be when you were the president of the United States, because you ran, you talked to the people. It wasn't about your money. It wasn't about your connections. There wasn't this too much bureaucracy. You were just a man and your beliefs, and you got voted in. I think somehow we get nostalgic for that and we want that. Yeah. It's not necessarily that we trust Donald with all of that responsibility, but there's a part of us that thinks that that's kind of how it should be. You shouldn't be beholden to anybody.
Was it you that was joking yesterday, Andrea, about when they showed his campaign headquarters? Yeah. It was like empty.
It was empty.
There was like bumper stickers.
And he said, I haven't spent a nickel of my own money. It shows that he works lean and mean. He's not going to be.
But who's going to advise him? Seriously, who's going to advise him?
Yeah.
When you stop and think about it, and somebody's going to sit down and say, Donald, maybe you ought to say this. He'll go, get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. He gets advice all the time.
But
he hires people to give him the kind of advice that helps him win. I think he's very good at that. Actually.
But I think that whole big thing. I've sat with candidates before, and it's like make sure everyone looks busy when the camera comes into campaign headquarters, and you have to clean it up, and everyone's like feverishly typing away and pretending like they're doing something. I respect that. He's like, everyone's out in the field. I've got a ground game in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. It's me. I work lean and mean. I'm not going to spend your money. And then when he ended with Chris Wallace and he said, if I'm not going to spend my own money, I'm going to be good with your money. I was like, yeah, I kind of like that.
Once again, he says it's little sound bites. It's the little things that he leaves with people.
Do you think that he would be a good coach? Sorry for another football analogy.
I've known Donald for many, many years. I find him a fascinating individual, an intriguing individual. And when he first thought about running for president, I really didn't think he would do it. But now that he's running and he's leading, and all you need to do is ask him by how much, and he'll be happy to tell you. He always does. But he brings up a very intriguing situation as I look forward, because we had a conversation a while back when we talked about who would you vote for. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I still haven't made my mind up, only because I want to hear about immigration. I want to hear about the economy. One of the things that is a problem, I think, that this president is going to face will be the national debt going well over $18 trillion. But we talk about the youth vote and how important it is. they're the ones that are going to be affected by the next presidency over the next 4 to 8 years. So what about tuitions in school? What about minimum wage? I haven't heard any of that. I want to hear what Donald Trump has to say about those issues specifically, and that's why I'd like to see the field cut down so that we can get to the meat and potatoes of what is going to affect most of the people in this country.
Good thing to leave off with as we may be entering a rising interest rate environment as of tomorrow.
Which is good. Which is good.
It's good. It's going to drive property sales, I would imagine, because it's going to put people who've been on the fence
people are
saying,
not
I better get in now. Hopefully,
Exactly.
for people who've got their homes for sale. Real quickly, what you said, though, is I think why people aren't getting out. Because you haven't made up your mind yet.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody's thinking, well, wait a minute. When are most people going to make up their minds? When do I stick my toe out?
I cut the menu selections back at my restaurant so that people could decide what they want. I didn't want to confuse them. I didn't want to throw a bunch of things at them where they're sitting and going, well, I'm not sure, I'm not sure.
What's the best thing on the menu?
Well, it's...
What's your favorite?
My favorite, actually, is Spirelli chicken.
Ooh!
We have chunks of chicken. We have sun-dried tomatoes. And we have it in a Alfredo cream sauce.
Excellent.
It's my favorite.
Sounds like a perfect 6 p.m. thing to do. By the way, a fan club just went by for you. We'll see you on TV tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern.